SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
William Carey University Athletics.
Every sport you find exciting.
Crusader Talk.
Crusader Talk. And now,
This is Crusader Talk. Crusader Talk. We're covering everything William Carey University Athletics. From the field to the court and the diamond on SuperTalk Hattiesburg 97.3 and SuperTalkHattiesburg.com.
And welcome to Crusader Talk. Glad to be with you. Caleb Hamill, Josh West here on a Monday. Officially June, which means, Josh, there's just nothing to talk about.
Oh,
not a
contraire.
I mean, there's no live athletics going on right now. But we did take Memorial Day off, so maybe there's some recap stuff we could talk about. We will find something, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
There's a little bit to talk
We're
about.
going to be talking about baseball and recapping their season, and what a terrific season it was. I know that looking back through the regular season of it all, it really had its ups and downs. There's no denying it. Carey did not host an opening round in the postseason, but man, did they ever show up and show out as they took down the Cumberlands in the opening round and advanced to Lewiston, Idaho as the 10 seed out of 10 teams that went. And man, did they shock the NAIA with the run they had at the start of the NAIA World Series. And we're joined by Coach Bobby Halford on the phone. Coach, thank you so much for carving out some time. I know y'all had late-night travels in across the country from west to east, and I think you said to me on the phone earlier today you got in at 4:30 this morning. But that, knowing what y'all did as far as your schedule of trying to get in that semifinal game against Tennessee Wesleyan, I know your biological clocks are already shifted by 12 hours. So 4:30 a.m. is the new 10 p.m., if I've done my math right, something like that.
You know, they were basically 2 hours behind us, and that game, I believe it started at 11 p.m., which would have been 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. our time. So, you know, it was an adjustment. I'm disappointed that, you know, we had to play at that time. I think that you go that far and you spend that much time and money and effort, and then you're playing at a late time. I think it's a big disadvantage. I really do. It's both teams, for both teams.
That is true. And, you know, I'm going to shed light on the positives because, I mean, we haven't even gotten a chance to recap the first 3 games of the World Series. I mean, just start right out of the gate. Matthew Davis, a terrific start against Taylor. Your team topples the Trojans 7-4 in that one. We're going to get to talk to Matthew later on in the show, but offensively, this team for you just really came out firing in the Taylor game, found a way to battle back against Mid-America Christian, and it just seemed like William Carey has just been the kings of finding a way to put together a big inning and make it work for them to get a win. It almost happened again in the last game of the season for y'all, but just let's walk it through game by game, starting with Taylor in the first game of the World Series. How did that all just transpire to make it work?
Well, you know, they were, of course, the number 1 seed, 55-5 and that type thing. And, of course, you know, we knew that we had played them a few years ago up at Reinhardt in an opening of the season type of tournament, and we kind of knew what kind of club they had. They had a team that these kids had played together. A lot of them had been there, homegrown, that type thing, and we knew that they were strong, very fundamental, well coached, and we knew we could beat them. I mean, we knew from the schedule that we play in the part of the country that we're from that it's one of the strongest in all of baseball. And of course, it's at every level. You see that with junior college, Division I, Division II, and of course NAIA and that type thing. So, you know, we felt really good about our chances, especially with Matthew on the mound.
We talked about it going into the World Series. That, Coach, though this William Carey program had a team in the World Series 2 years ago, the overlap of players that were involved in that World Series to this season really was a very thin group. I mean, you had maybe Josh McCord and Lane Jarrow. That's about it.
Yeah, that was it.
So, with
also,
you, the coaches are the only ones that have experience going in, and that's just you and Eric Ebers, not even Coach McMahon.
It was Ebers, and also Eli Ladner, who does a lot of the analytics things for us now. And so we were the only the only people that had been out there. And the very thing that we talk about all the time is that your end goal is to get there and play for a national championship, and then the process it takes is every game that you play is kind of an elimination game through the year because of regional, when they call it opening round, of course, not regional, but being able to host an opening round or be able to go to an opening round site that you're not the 4 or 5 seed or you're not a low seed playing at the top seed in the country, that type thing. So that's something that, it was a process. It took a long time for our kids to kind of understand it. And, I had some exit meetings today with a few of them, and they all said that. They said that was something that it took a while to kind of sink in that, a game on a Tuesday or a Wednesday early in the season had as much impact sometimes as a conference game or a conference series at the end.
We're talking with head coach Bobby Halford of William Carey Baseball, fresh off of a trip to the NAIA World Series. Is it officially that you finished third? Is that how they consider it?
Yeah, we finished third, yeah.
Yeah, it's just really weird with the 10 seeds.
The thing that was kind of ironic is that this year is the first year that they changed the bracket, and the old bracket would have had us 3-0, and would have the two teams with one loss playing each other to get to us. We, in the old way, we would have had to bye, and then someone had to beat us twice. So, I wasn't real pleased with that, but that was something that was voted on back a year ago. That was changed, and it was kind of to mimic what they do at the Division I Junior College World Series at Grand Junction. So, but that would have put Tennessee Wesleyan playing Taylor, to eliminate one of those teams, and then have us play the winner in a position for them to have to beat us twice. So it didn't work out that way, and it's just what you have to do because that was the way it was set up.
Yeah, and for those that weren't familiar with the format, as Carey got to face off against Tennessee, let's go ahead and say when they faced Taylor the second time, it was really set up to where it was either going to be a couple of games that William Carey could play to win a national championship against Tennessee Wesleyan, or if Carey lost that game, which they did, it would set up a 3-team ending to the World Series with each team having one loss. And the way they settle on which team gets the bye to the championship game is one by who has played the most games already, and that's usually who was ever earliest in the loser's bracket, or at one time it was the lowest seed before they changed this format. But because William Carey was in the winner's bracket for longer, Taylor and Tennessee Wesleyan had the same number of games played. Taylor got the bye because they were the number 1 seed. And so that's why William Carey faced off against Tennessee Wesleyan, and then when Tennessee Wesleyan defeated William Carey, put them out of the tournament, they played for the national title and ended up winning it. But, Coach, this is the final year of this format, if I'm not mistaken, for the NAIA World Series, because next year we're going to 8 opening round sites with 5 teams each, and so it'll be a true 8-team format next year.
I'm not sure if it's a 5. I think it's a 6-team.
It could be 6. You may be right.
Yeah, it's a 6-team region or 6-team opening round.
Yeah. So,
now, the one thing the NAIA does that I think is really good is that, like in like Division II, they play each other all year in a conference, and then they end up playing each other again in a regional, and then the regional winners end up having to go to Tampa, which is what I call a Division II team that's really a Division I team. So it's just a harder. This thing gets the best teams to the national tournament. It basically sends you all over. You don't duplicate where you're going and playing some of those teams in the Southeast, which are the strongest in the country, and then you're dispersing them. You're sending them all to different regions where you're getting basically the 10 best teams out there.
Yeah. Coach, we got just a couple of minutes left in this segment. Josh is going to join here in just a second with something, but I wanted to ask you about just some of these seniors. I'm looking back through what was accomplished, and 2 guys that really stand out to me are DJ Booth and Jaden Mark. We've known what DJ has been capable of all season long, but Jaden really stepped it up there, especially early on in the World Series.
Yeah, about a month ago, I went to our guys and said, we've got to get more offense into our lineup, and we wanted to put Barron Frazier in the lineup, the big left-handed hitting freshman. But to do that, we needed Frankie Hernandez basically to catch all the time. and we knew that Jaden, being such a good athlete, could move to the outfield. And that really helped us offensively when we were able to do that, because in the NAIA, you can run for your catcher, and courtesy run for your catcher. And so Frankie, when he was DHing, you couldn't run for him, and he's not the fastest guy in the world. So then you couldn't DH Barron, because Ducksworth was our first baseman. You couldn't replace him. So it made it where we could get those two freshmen in the lineup all the time, and Jaden was able to transition and did a really good job playing left field. And he's so versatile. He can play first, he can play the outfield, he can catch, and it just really helped us offensively. We started scoring the runs after that.
All right, we're talking with Coach Bobby Halford, recapping the 2026 baseball season for William Carey as it finishes with a third-place finish in the NAIA World Series. We'll continue the conversation. We'll break down some of these great games that had fantastic finishes, especially that second game of the tournament against Mackey, a come-from-behind victory. And we'll also get Coach's thoughts on more of the senior class as they have wrapped up their baseball playing careers at the collegiate level, and a whole lot more. This is Crusader Talk. Stay with us.
You're listening to Crusader Talk on SuperTalk Hattiesburg 97.3 and SuperTalkHattiesburg.com.
All right, continuing to recap William Carey in the World Series with Coach Bobby Halford. We're going to be joined in the third segment by Matthew Davis, star pitcher for the Crusaders, who collected a couple wins for William Carey over in Lewiston, Idaho. Coach, one that he didn't pitch in, however, was this big come-from-behind victory against Mackey, a game in which Carey found themselves leading early 2-1, eventually fell behind 3-2, tied things up in the fifth, lost the lead, giving up 2 runs in the seventh, but somehow, some way, load the bases, and then Taylor Walters delivers a triple off the wall in left center and drives home all 3 runs to walk it off with 2 outs. I think he had 2 strikes in the count as well. It was just magical. And when I saw you in that third base coach's box, it almost looked like you didn't know who to hug. You were just so excited.
Oh yeah, I mean, and we'd done that the week before in the region, or the up in Cumberlands, and so it was just kind of like deja vu, But we had the right people up there. I think that's was the key to the whole thing, is that it always seemed to be that we had our top hitters up there in those situations. Now, the back of the order really came through for in those games where they were able to get on base, and Alan McLean had some really good at-bats, and then Gage Hennig had some good at-bats and that type thing. So it just really opened it up for DJ and also for Taylor at the top of the order. So it just kind of fell at the right time.
Hey, Coach, it's Josh over here, and wanted to talk momentum with you. When I visited with you briefly there at the end of the season, kind of heading towards this, we just talked kind of casually about a broad range of topics. And when did you get the sense that the momentum with this team could be starting to shift? Was it in Kentucky? Was it over at the Cumberlands? Or was it even at the end of the regular season where you kind of felt like, well, if we keep trending this way, we've got a shot? When did you start kind of sensing that things could be starting to piece together?
Well, all year long we would do things like have a really good inning where everything clicked and guys, were good at their roles and that type thing. And then all of a sudden we'd have a lull. We'd go back out there maybe from a pitching standpoint and walk some guys and let the other team back in the game sometimes. And so, but I really felt that when we were at Loyola in the last game of the series, we had a 1-1 against them going into that third game, and we went into extra innings and we put up an 8 spot in the 11th inning, and it just we kind of started duplicating that. We did that against Blue Mountain where we put up I think 7 or 8. We were down 8-4 in the 8th inning, And that was the game that we felt like, if we're going to be able to go or host an opening round or go to an opening round and be a good, a solid seed, then we have to win that game. And so we were down 8-4, and we did the same thing. So then we did it again up at the Cumberlands. We're down 10-2. I'm looking at the scoreboard. We had 3 hits going into the 8th inning. 3 hits, and I'm thinking about exit meetings. I'm thinking about what you need for the next year, what replacements, what needs to be done, and then all of a sudden it starts working. Now, one of the things that I applaud our guys with, we weren't a bunch of hackers. A lot of teams now, and the way baseball is played, they're all up there swinging early and that type thing, and our guys were working the count, and we were talking about it constantly that, put the pressure on them, make their pitchers not have those 15, 16, 12 pitch innings, make them, labor. And so we were able to do that. And each time that we have come back in those big innings, there's been a lot of walks, and there's been some errors too. And then you put pressure, and then you get the big hit from a Booth or from a Walters or from a Ducksworth or from Jaden or those guys. That's how it works. And I think a lot of kids growing up today, they just all get up there and hack, and not work the count. Not work to your favor and to make the pitcher make him pitch. Work on the pitch count. Try to get that pitch count up for later in the game, especially when you're facing a really good pitcher. I mean, I think that swinging early a lot of times. I mean, a lot of people teach that. A lot of people, especially when they go to these hitting gurus and that type thing, is that swing early and that type thing. So I think it went back to an old school philosophy there.
So, Coach, the offense obviously pulled you out of a ton of holes late in the season. You date back to that Blue Mountain game that you mentioned to end the regular season and on through the postseason as well. But one critical point and player for your team that has really been the guy that won not just games that he pitched in, but also in a way helped you win some other games down the stretch because of the arms that he saved and because of just the momentum that he gave you going into a weekend, is Matthew Davis. And he's a guy that came through with 2 big wins for your program, one against Taylor to start off the World Series and then another in a run rule game against Southeastern. Unfortunately, he gets the loss just coming in late as Carey was trying to just do whatever they could against Tennessee Wesleyan to win that game. But this guy is one that will be remembered for a long time for the ways that he helped this Crusader team.
Sure, and I told our players, I challenged them. After the conference tournament, we lost to Loyola. I said, guys, somebody's got to help Matthew. I said, he's out here. He's winning a third of our games. I said, so. And at that point there, we decided to use some of our relievers as starters. We used Wallace, we used Jimmy Johnson in a different role. And so I just told them after that, I said, guys, we can't just keep going well, and he's carrying us. And I said, he continued. It was unfortunate the other night we were sitting there and we go, he's in the bullpen and he's feeling good. His velocity's good, and said, why not go with the pitcher of the year? Why not go with a second-team All-American, which I think will happen next week or so? And let's do it again. And that's what we were able to do, and it just didn't work out. But and then we had our chances. We were still 2 runs down going into the last, and there's a couple of called third strikes that there's no doubt in my mind that they weren't, and so that's just baseball. But that's what happened.
Coach, I look back to the time, and I think I've mentioned it before on the show, but after last season, Carey gets put out in the opening round as they hosted it. I sat there just beyond the right field fence with you, Coach McMahon, Coach Ebers. Eli may have been there as well, just kind of talking about the team and what a rebuilding effort it would have to be for 2026 because of all of the seniors that you graduated, guys like Andrew Shira, Jake Lissette, Luke Lissette, all those guys over the past 2 years that you lose, and now all of a sudden it just seems like 2026 was going to have to be a full-on rebuilding year. Just building around Matthew Davis, Jaden Mark, Tyler Ducksworth, and all of a sudden in a rebuilding year, as we would label 2026 at the start of the year, turns out to be one of the best finishes in your career.
Yeah, and that's what baseball, that happens in baseball. It's just basically a group playing together and basically having some clearly defined roles, and those guys accepting that, and then guys complimenting each other, but also just that never give up. And that's something that, I've always had been taught my whole life, that, I never say, well, guess what, we'll get them tomorrow. I said, well, tomorrow might not ever come, So I tell our guys, let's pride ourselves if we're down. Let's see how hard we can fight to get back in this game. Let's don't ever give up on a game, because you can't get that game back. And it's so rewarding to come back from 8 runs, 10 runs, and that type thing. And that's happened a lot. And I look back on our whole time here, and that's something that we really talk about a lot, that it's really easy because you don't have that many opportunities. And so it's not like pro baseball where you play 162 ball games. I mean, you're only playing 50 games in a regular season. So every game that you play, there's no giveaway games. There's no games where you play on a Tuesday or Wednesday and let's just try this guy or try that guy. We try to play it just like you're in a tournament. I mean, every game matters.
Coach, it's been incredible getting to cover your team this season and all the other seasons as well. This team is just – it's unique. I mean, it's never the team that you expect to make it as far as they do in the World Series. It's the scrappy team that finds a way to win games. It's not always the team that was just dominant all season long. And no more is that evident than what we see in the NCAA tournament this year, with the top 2 seeds from a national seeding perspective being ousted in their home regionals. But it's a special thing that you and your coaching staff have been able to build year in and year out. How would you grade the performance for your career in year 41 at the helm? I
think this year was one of the best as far as group of kids that basically had, being a Christian school, I mean, they drew on their faith. They were drawing on, what we preach all the time and what we actually believe. And so to watch some of those kids and watch some of the miracles that were happening before us, I said, Lord, you were doing this. It wasn't us. And I really believe that, and I always believe that. And I tell those guys that, you were given a lot of favor, and you were given a lot of good things happening to you, and you were blessed, and because you can't just describe some of those comebacks. I mean, you really can't. You're down to your last strike. And it didn't happen, just once in a while. It was happening all the time, and it was fun to watch these guys just believe in each other, and just feel like, hey, it's not over.
Yeah, never was over. Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to visiting with you down the road, and I'm still waiting on those steak bites and waffles and more in the package to be delivered to my house.
They're on their way.
Thanks so much, Coach. We'll see you next time. You're listening to Crusader Talk.
You're tuned in to Crusader Talk on SuperTalk Hattiesburg 97.3 and SuperTalkHattiesburg.com.
All right, back here on Crusader Talk, putting a bow on the 2026 baseball season. William Carey finishes with an overall record of 41-20. But, man, with a 60% winning percentage, you wouldn't think they would go all the way to the semifinals of the World Series, but, man, they did. They showed out there in Lewiston, winning 3 in a row to start off, defying all odds as the 10 seed. And just to look back at history, the 10 seed had only gone 3-0 in the World Series one other time in history. That was 2014 when Cumberland, Tennessee did it. And they ended up winning it all. And as Coach pointed out, the format is different this year than it was for them because they had the same thing happen that Carey did. Lost in their 4th game, but because of all the way the tournament was formatted and the way they had to play their games, they got the bye to the championship game and ended up winning it. But nevertheless, I digress about all the different ins and outs of why the tournament format is a little bit screwy, if I could put it that way. But going to a true 8-team tournament next year, that should be one that removes a whole lot of all of these weird nuances that come with a 10-team tournament. But moving away from all those opinions, we're joined now in studio by a man who's responsible for a lot of wins at William Carey this year. Starting pitcher, Friday night ace. He's got a ton of nicknames. We just like to call him Matthew Davis. He collected a grand total of, let's see, how many wins was it? 12 wins, only 3 losses this year. Unfortunately, it was pegged with the final loss of the season against Tennessee Wesleyan, but that is just a small mark in what was an illustrious career. Matthew, first of all, thanks for joining us here in studio today, and man, congratulations on such a great season and career at William Carey.
Appreciate y'all having me. Definitely a blessing to end it the way we did, and
Well, Matthew, first of all, I called you a tone setter for a lot of these different weekends for William Carey. To pitch on Friday night is unique for some of the different guys that will start games as Crusaders or anybody in the NAIA, because that is always the guaranteed 9-inning game, except for the Blue Mountain Christian game. We'll count that as just kind of a random nuance. But to be that guy that goes out there to the mound, you start off this year with a bit of a rocky start over there in the Masters in California, but man, after that, I think you went 9 straight, maybe it was more than that, in wins. And what just clicked for you this year? I know you had some ups and downs last year, but man, this year you just hit your stride.
No, yeah, for sure. So last year I was Saturday starter, game 2, and Andrew Shire was in front of me.
Pretty good arm in front of you.
Yeah, for sure. And so early spring this year before the season started, I remember sitting in Coach Halford's office, and he was just like, you got to be that guy this year as far as setting the tone like you're talking about. And that's what I wanted to be this year for the team. And I knew we had a good group coming here this year, a lot of new guys, but knew we could do something special. But no, for sure. I think last year kind of got my feet up under me. A lot of the innings I got, it was my first year back. And, my body and my arm was kind of getting back used to the swing of things. And I think this year kind of knew, what to expect as far as what a season, holds now. And, I think that was one of the biggest things for me as far as the experience last year, getting to throw after Shira and getting those innings under my belt. And, I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Matthew, just to kind of wind back the clock, I know we're talking, mostly about this year and what William Carey was able to do, but just in kind of opening up the bio on what you have been as a pitcher in your career, coming from Selma, Alabama, you came to Carey by way of Arkansas Little Rock, and congrats to them for winning the Hattiesburg Regional just down the road. But the journey to William Carey, for a lot of people, is not always a direct route, and for you it came by way of transferring in. How did you arrive at saying William Carey is the place that I need to be, and how would you say that your stay was?
No, yeah. So first 3 years were at Arkansas Little Rock. My third year there, ended up having Tommy John surgery. And after that year, went home for a year and actually just worked for my dad and helped coach in my old high school. And an old player, I think he played 2 or 3 years before I got there, but named Joseph Estes. He played there his freshman year. And
I know Joseph very well.
Yeah, so I was finishing up that year of being home, not playing, and I knew that I wanted to finish school and just thought I wanted to keep playing. I thought I'd regret it if I didn't come back, and definitely would have. But I got to talk to Joseph, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll shoot to Coach Halford a text and just see where his head's at." And he did, and that's when Coach Halford reached out, and I came and visited, and I really liked the place and the people here I met, and definitely a blessing. You can't thank the Lord enough for the people He's placed in my life here in Hattiesburg, who've poured into me, and it's been I still don't have words for it really, but
it's going to take a while to really process all
sure.
that. I know we're pretty fresh off. Literally, y'all got home at 4:30 last night. But Josh, just hearing from Coach Halford and now Matthew, it's been clear the Lord's work just in individuals as well as just this team as a whole in making this season and several other things just a reality. He mentioned Joseph Estes. This is the crazy thing. He was a part of Carey's baseball team, left because he wanted to focus more on what his calling was, which was to go into ministry. And lo and behold, he comes across Matthew and says, actually, you need to go back and play baseball and be a part of William Carey. So from a guy that left prematurely, saying, hey, you actually need to go finish out for William Carey.
Yeah, it sounds to me like somebody who realized what Carey baseball did for them and realized what it could do here for Matthew. And for you, it was kind of a rebirth, for you. Sure. Physically, you talked about how you had to your body had to kind of get back into the swing of things last year. So then from year 1 to year 2 at Carey, was it psychological? Was it just being more physically prepared going into year 2? Was it maybe refining a pitch, one or two of your pitches that made the biggest difference? Or was it a collection of all of those things?
I think it was a collection, but one of the biggest things for me was A lot of people since I've been here, after my first year here, have just poured into me, and I've been growing in my faith. And I'd say when I first started playing this game, and even last year a little bit, my identity was in my successes on the field, and trying to please others, and that's where I was finding a lot of my as far as like satisfaction, I would say
your value, your worth.
Value, yes, but after I've been growing in my faith, and these people have poured into me in Hattiesburg, my worth and identity is in Christ now, and it's just given me a freedom to play this game, and a joy and a love for the game, and it's giving me a whole different perspective as far as using this as a platform to glorify the Lord, and try to be a light on in a lot of teams' dark places. But I think that's the biggest, physically too, but that's the biggest thing for me, is just giving me a freedom to play this game and know that it's way bigger than baseball, for sure.
We're talking with Matthew Davis, pitcher for William Carey, as part of the World Series team this year. Now a graduate, finishing out his collegiate career. Played a lot of baseball with a little bit of gap in between, transferring from Little Rock to William Carey. Matthew, there are so many different games we could talk about that stand out. Games in which you threw 138 pitches. If you're talking about Abraham Baldwin, you went above 100 a ton of times this year. A couple high-stress games. Tennessee Southern, one that I think about, a 6-5 win, and then obviously that big game against Taylor, Indiana, to start off the World Series. What is one moment that you remember most as far as your time on the diamond?
Oh man, I'd say that Loyola series one that I remember for sure. I think that's the deepest I've gone in a game, 8.2 innings, and also just the whole experience of the World Series. You can't beat that. I mean, they're not lying when they say that's something you'll never forget. Throwing in that environment, that crowd, those big pitches, that's something that I'll definitely miss. But I may want a couple of those pitches back. But, but no, for sure, it's the biggest blessing ever. And can't thank Coach Halford enough for giving me this opportunity to getting back into it. So,
what was that crowd in that opening game? Was it pushing 3,000 to 4,000 in that opener?
I could tell you what the official attendance was.
I wonder if I know Lewis Clark draws a huge crowd, but I wondered, that if not a lot of the Lewis Clark fans were wanting to see the number one team, wanted to see who the number one seed was, and then they find out real quick who Carey was.
It was a fairly decent crowd. I don't know the exact number.
It was just under 1,500. And granted, that was about a noontime start.
Okay, so, I wasn't sure.
So the nightcap, whenever Lewis Clark State was out there, that was probably pushing $3,000.
Yeah, and then the Taylor, it was the Mac game, or it was game 3.
So we played Taylor, MacU, and then Southeastern. Southeastern's the one you beat.
Yeah, the Southeastern game. I remember it was late in the game, or later in the game. And I was looking around, and it was like, man, it's actually a good amount of people here.
Well, maybe pushing 1,500 to 1,800.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised, but it was getting kind of loud, and I looked up, warmed up, and I was like, man, it's a lot more people than I realized were going to be here.
I'm going to tell you, you had a very different experience for a multitude of reasons than I did when I went to Lewiston. One, because Carey was 0-2. So our time there was short. But also Lewis Clark State wasn't part of that World Series back 2 years ago. So the crowd support was hardly anything compared to probably what there was of just at least general fans that just wanted to come out and watch baseball because they knew their team was playing later in the evening.
And probably already had all session passes, right?
Right. But still, Lewis Clark State made a quick exit
this year
as well this year.
Yeah.
But all that said, favorite memory outside the diamond, specifically in Lewiston? Maybe a favorite meal.
I was talking before this, but one of our favorite stops was Waffles and More. They have some crazy waffles, and
we're handing out free advertising to Waffles and More at this point.
And that was definitely one of the places I'm not going to forget. But it was also just a beautiful place to be, riding around and seeing all the the mountains and the river that runs through Lewiston, and walking around with the guys. And it's an older town, but it's a really cool place, and I'd say that'd be the biggest memory for me.
Being around a team for a couple of years allows you to foster a lot of different relationships, and I know that's a big part of especially pitchers who spend a lot of off time together. What are you going to miss most about being around a baseball team, specifically at William Carey?
I would say the biggest thing is just being intentional in those relationships. It's something I didn't realize until later in my career, and I'm thankful that I realized it when I did before it was over. But just those outfield conversations when you're shagging, or the Bible studies, or the locker room talks, whatever it is, those are something I remember those more than the stats that were put up, more than the big pitches. Really, those relationships that were made and the people that the Lord placed in my life that poured into me, but also I was able to hopefully pour into them a little bit and lead them to Christ. And so I'd say that's the biggest thing for me that I'm not going to ever forget. And super grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is we got about 30 seconds here. If you were to come in contact with somebody that was considering being a part of William Carey baseball, what would you want to tell them?
I'd say be the best decision of your life, for sure. The people there at Carey and Hattiesburg, they don't make them better than that. So I would say you definitely won't regret it if you decide to come to Carey and be a Crusader.
All right, love it. Matthew Davis joins us here in studio as William Carey finishes off their season at the NAIA World Series and a finish of third place. Second best all-time ever finish there, just behind the national champion team in 1969. I believe the 1970s team was a third-place finisher as well. So congratulations to you, Matthew, and for William Carey in their World Series appearance. Final segment coming up with you as Josh and I wrap things up. You're listening to Crusader Talk.
Talking everything William Carey University athletics. This is Crusader Talk on SuperTalk Hattiesburg 97.3 and SuperTalkHattiesburg.com.
Such a great year. And again, I was surprised. I'll be truthful. I was surprised at just how well William Carey handled the postseason. Because, it can be so easy to say, oh, we don't have an opening round. Okay, now we're an underdog, whatever. But, man, I just keep thinking back to something we talked about earlier. That Blue Mountain Christian game, last game of the regular season, Carey puts, 8 runs in the 8th inning and come back and win that game 12-8, I want to say it was. And that just kind of, in my opinion, cemented in the heads of those players, no lead is safe if you get into another team's bullpen. And it came true. Against Cumberland's, William Carey does the same exact thing. They put 10 runs in the 8th inning there to come back from behind and win 13-11. Didn't really take a big crooked number inning against Taylor. However, they broke the tie in the top of the 9th and got 3 runs to win 7-4. Against Mackey, they had to get 3 runs in the bottom of the 9th on a Taylor Walters triple. Against Southeastern, William Carey just started off strong, getting 4 runs in the first inning. And just really carried themselves through, getting 6 runs in the 6th to help out to a run rule victory. I mean, just all postseason, there have just been crooked numbers that William Carey has been able to find to get wins. And it almost worked out for a win against Taylor the second go-around, which would have vaulted them to the actual championship game. If it weren't for a rough start for Josh McCord, he starts off the game, 4 pitches and gets 2 outs. And then Taylor is just able to find a way to tee off of him and get 5 runs to put Carey at a disadvantage for the rest of that game. If it weren't for those runs in the first inning, and Carey just goes ahead and makes the move to the bullpen, Adam May really carried them through in the late innings. It would have been a 4-2 win for William Carey if not for that one spot where Taylor had so many 2-out hits and runs scored. And then you saw what Tennessee Wesleyan did after the marathon game against William Carey. They came through and just absolutely bulldozed their way through Taylor in the championship game. It was not even close. And so it's the old saying, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, you can finish the rest. But it's the same thing of William Carey just envisioning themselves that they were in Tennessee Wesleyan's shoes there if they could have done the exact same thing. I really do think they would have. If they found a way to win that marathon against Tennessee Wesleyan, Matthew would have found every energy drink known to man or muscle milk, anything else, to just find a way to throw until his arm fell off. He said earlier to us off mic that he may be going into sales or something of similar career path moving forward. And all I could think of was, well, you can always type with your left hand if you needed to, if that right arm is just dead. Because that's about where he is at this point.
Oh, he said he's got a few more bullets left in there.
A few more bullets. Got to have at least one arm to pick up the kids later down the road. But, man, special career for Matthew Davis and a whole bunch of these seniors. I'm going to miss them all.
But
I
this
tried to
is
name
not
them.
this is not an extremely old team. I mean,
No.
they had a bunch of
Youthful.
seniors that were extremely pivotal. Yes, but you mentioned his former team. You mentioned Little Rock and what Little Rock did the previous year against LSU in the LSU Regional, and then they go and they win the Hattiesburg Regional this year. There's dividends in the immediate future because of what Carey did this year in the postseason. That carries over through the offseason and the next year, in my opinion. Does it not?
Yeah. I mean, and thinking about the group that's coming back next year, Taylor Walters, Gage Hennett, Nick Arender, you'll have Hernandez and McLean back. They're freshmen, by the way, and they made huge contributions, especially Hernandez. Elsewhere, Dylan Wallace, a pitcher, comes back, as will Jackson Hawsey. And all of these, keep in mind, are just barring anything happening of transfer portal variety. But as far as who are listed as possible returnees, but just a big group of guys that have a chance to develop even more. Weston Wales, another one that's coming back next year. Several others that were contributors this past season. There's a high ceiling. And to have guys that have already experienced this, that have been able to play loose even if they weren't in the lead, really gives you the confidence moving forward for what can be come 2027. And to know about this team and what they were able to do on what I call a rebuilding year, and you pair that with, in the same season, what softball did in just year one of Wendy Hoag's return, what will it look like in the years to come? There is a lot to be excited about moving forward in the stickball sports of William Carey.
Imagine if Matthew Davis was back next year like Jaden Sawyer's back.
That's
because Jaden Sawyer was the second best pitcher in the country this year. She's back.
That's right. As long as nobody tries to poach her from us. Track and field. You hear me out there, national people. You stay away. Stay away. She's got a bad attitude. You don't want her on your team. We have to keep Jaden Sawyer. Don't even think about it. Bad egg. Steer clear. I know you're listening to me on 97.3 right now. But she's terrific. We love her, and man, all of these Crusader Athletics team members, fantastic to get to cover your games and talk about you on this podcast. Got to be summer programming the rest of the way. Oh, by the way, congratulations, Tracy English, SSAC Athletics Director of the Year. That award not only speaks to what he's been able to do, but also everyone else in that athletic department. Ben Smith, Lauren Broom, Kevin Rosary, all of them fantastic to make this athletic program what it is. Congratulations to all of you for that accomplishment, as William Carey also wins the Commissioner's Cup in both men's and women's and overall.
Learfield info coming out show after next.
That's correct. So for Josh and Dalton, I'm Caleb Hamill. Till next time, good night, God bless, and go Satyrs.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.